program for the National Front government was the late Dr. Walter Rodney. We went to the Clerico House, headquarters of the CCWU, and I was asked by Chetty, and Walter was asked by the WPA for us to draft the first program for national unity. And as Walter and I were walking up the stairs of Clerico House, a little adjoining room, I asked him, I said, Walter, would there be a place for the PNC in this government of national unity? And he watched me, and he told me, why not? That if the PNC would commit itself to free and fair elections, there will always be a place in the government of national unity for the PNC. And it was he who described the PNC as an authentic party, mass-based party. And I remember when I did my university long paper, it was titled The Origins of the Mass-Based Parties in the West Indies. And the PNC and the PPP featured in my research as authentic mass-based parties. And therefore, when you came down, right down to the 1985, there was an attempt to form a government of national unity. We wrote the program. We assigned cabinet portfolio. Burnham was to remain president. Chetty Jagan was to be the prime minister. And I was working at the Mirror with Mrs. Jagan. And when it appeared as if we were going to sign the agreement for the secret talks that were taking place at Belfield, Janet Jagan wrote an editorial, "Money's for gun, none for butter." And Burnham demanded the retraction that we were talking, and you couldn't cuss him up while they were talking. It was then that Burnham used this famous statement that you couldn't call the woman you want to marry a whore and expect that she would marry you. And the talks broke down, and Burnham died soon after. And when I reflect on that, David, holds no threat to you at all, but I was wondering, at the death of Forbes Burnham in 1985, Chetty Jagan would have been prime minister. And under the Constitution, he would have been the president of Guyana, not in 1992, but in 1985. And that's the reality of history. That if you do not take history in your hand in a timely manner, you lose the initiative. So when we lost in 1985 the initiative for a national government, it did not re-emerge on the table until now. Until Ramotar prorogued Parliament. Until he showed Guyana that there was a national danger. That when the British invaded Guyana in 1953, and they suspended the Constitution and disbanded Parliament, we did not expect that after so much sufferings and sacrifices for us to become independent, that our own government, our own president, in a flash of a moment, with only a pen in his hand, would destroy our Parliament for which our leaders and our people fought for since 1940 and before that. So that was a fatal moment, that we believe that where democracy dies, fascism could emerge. Where peaceful method of rule are disrated and destroyed, violent methods of rule would take the place of peaceful methods. And so when I moved the motion in the National Assembly, or tabled the motion for us to express no confidence in the minority government, it was a moment we saw that Guyana could move into authoritarian rule. And so we see today that when Parliament was disbanded, prorogued first and then dissolved, that one man was ruling by decree, Mr. Ramotar. One man who stood up and said Burnham, if he came back, if he were alive, would make us eat rice flour. One man decided yesterday to spend $100 million to open a rice cereal factory after the PPP being in government for 23 years and after they're talking so much about not tinkering with the rice staple in Guyana. Because we have a situation in Guyana now that has placed our country in danger. And we realize that November 10, 2014 was the time to say enough. Enough. And today we saw the same mentality pervades outside with a handful of protesters all around the world. Opposition would protest against the government. Today we saw the government protesting against the opposition. And that is why we told them it didn't have to be so. On November 10th, rather than proroguing the parliament, the government could have stood up and acknowledged the fact that it is a minority masquerading as a government. The PPP and the Ramotar, the post-Jagan PPP, was in fact usurping the function of government because they had 48% and we had 52%. We were the majority in opposition and they were the minority in government. And the minority mentality has been exported to New York. But it's good it's cold outside. The fire of protests in Guyana could easily be extinguished in this environment. So I want to fast forward the tape very quickly because I thought it's necessary that this should be said here and now. It was that when we called for a pro-democracy alliance or an anti-dictatorial front in Guyana, it is because we saw that minority rule could lead to instability, and instability could lead to violence. It could lead to the disintegration of our country. And any nationalist, any patriot would have decided that it is time. It is time that you step forward and prevent that. And so, when the talks started that we should join together, we didn't expect that it would have finished so quickly. As I said, the necessity of it was weighing heavily on us. No one goes into negotiation in a few weeks and would come out with a major decision, an agreement that we came out with. And people ask, that, do you think that Granger is going to honor the agreement? Would you think that they would kick out the Alliance for Change, as I said that the PNC did in 1968 with the United Force? That's the question we're asked all the time. And we're saying that nothing is cast in stone. Nothing could be assured that it could go on without a flaw or it could go on without any changes. There are people who marry and they get divorced. There are some who pretend to marry. And they're separated. So, those who have experience mustn't lecture us on the permanency of agreement and promises. But I can tell you this, I don't believe. I've looked that man in the eye, Granger. They call him Daga. And they call me Naga. One could stab, one could bite. But in this case, I don't think the stabber has the venom of a Naga. It will work. It will work, my friends. We have to make it work. This is not about us. This is about you. This is what you want. This is an objective reality playing out as a drama before your eyes. That what had eluded us for 60 years could happen suddenly. National unity is now on the card. Yesterday, David and I had the great honor to meet with Joey Jagan, the son of the late Chetty Jagan. He stood up and he assured his support, because for Joey, and I say this here, he was and still is the biological son of Chetty, but I think he recognized from a political sense, and he told me so once, that I'm his father's confidant, because I've walked in the shadow of Jagan all my life until his death. And so we are brothers. I don't hold anything that he would say against me. I'm a politician. I have the skin of a rhinoceros. It's very thick. But the fact is that he also saw the necessity that what had eluded his godfather Burnham and his father Chetty in their lifetime, that David and I, Kemra Dramjatan and Harman and others, we are going to achieve that. So everywhere we go, we are getting goodwill. We're getting support because people believe this is about them. This is not about us. And so, my friends, in these remarks today, I want to give you my assurance that the struggles that I went through, difficult times, I would have had cause to complain. I would have cause not to go this route, because I was the one who was beaten, I was the one who was jailed, the one who had faced serious problems. But I'm not the type who would look into the album and cry over old photographs. I'm not the one who's going to feel, of course, those pictures in the album would remind me of very hurtful past. But I can't change any of those photos now. Even if I could, I'm too old to do that. But I could now turn the leaf. I could see the new page in the album, and I could do a selfie. I could smile. I could write the future history today in the way I want to write it, because I am in control. I am fully in control of my destiny. And if I can do that, you could do that. We cannot look into the rearview mirror all the time, because we are not going to see where we're going. We'll crash the car. We'll crash the vehicle. We have to have perception of where we are going. It's good to know where we came from. But old people used to say, you can revisit the past, but don't dwell in it. We can't go there. We can't live in the past. We have to move forward. So the Alliance for Change, even though my leader, Kemra Dramjatan, had said that it was not an option that we want to exercise, that we may lose our individuality, we may lose our personality if we got into a coalition, we decided, when we look at all the options available, that getting Ramotar for 3 more years was not an option. Getting Jagdeo for 3 more years or 5 more years or forever is never going to be an option. And I can tell you this, if he was picking a war with the Alliance for Change, as Rowie said, Roti, that those who in debt will be badly damaged. The threat against us. We also know that it was good if he picked a war with us. I could handle Jack Deo, 100 Jack Deo, 1,000 Jack Deo. I could handle him. And that is why I advise him that he should put Pampers on his mouth. Because the very next day he ran into trouble and he took on the Jagans instead of the AFC. Well, they were walking with Chedi Jagan as their El Cid. They were going into battle with a dead general, my hero, my leader. But he messed up when he tried to drag Chedi Jagan into the gutter trench bottom politics that is called Jagdeoism. He tainted Chedi with his brush of sleaze by comparing this man's humble lifestyle, his clean life, incorruptible life, with his sleaze of corruption and excesses and ostentatious living. Yes. All at the expense of the taxpayer, all at the expense of the people. And when his ministers could go around riding jets with $1 million seat cushion seats, and when they could spend your money and our money on repairing their teeth, making them bigger and brighter, so they can smile at you and your miseries. Mainly the pensioners who have to live on $9,500 per month. Always there is no money for single mothers to send a child to school. There's always no money to take care of mothers in hospitals. They have to live two on the bed.
Talk to them.
They die from maternal deliveries. Their babies die because they said no money available. And we find that the money that was spent, they were going to build a specialty hospital, is only when we decide to raise the issue of the specialty hospital and maternity death. And I said that every mother in Guyana should be paid by the state what it costs to deliver a baby. And for the days of confinement in the hospital, that mother must choose which hospital she wants to go. But there's no confidence in the public hospital. It is only when we say that the state must pay for the delivery of the birth that the government decided they were going to expand the maternity wing of the Georgetown Hospital. And so it was for that reason that we realized that they were misspending the money when they went to India and made a deal with the Exim Bank and brought Surendra, a man who never built a toilet in his life, to build a specialty hospital for tourists, that we put a stop to it. When they say we block development, it was not development. We block corruption. We stop it. But we were not able to plug the hole quick enough. Surendra got away. If Surendra had lived in the United States, they would have called him Al Capone. Because Al Capone never stole $900 million yet. But Alibaba and the 40 thieves in Guyana are making off with more than Al Capone. And so the man got away with $900 million we have to pay. It is that kind of thing that we try to talk to them about. And then when we talk to them, that when we got into the government in 1962, when Mr. Hoyt was the president, the development was 7%. The debt was $262 billion. We were given tremendous debt write-off. But today, our debt is $400 billion. Why did we contract this new debt? It was because of all these sleaze and corruption. And we told them that we are not blocking development, we are blocking the loopholes. We are plugging the loopholes for corruption. When they talk about anti-money laundering law, we said yes, we will support that. But you must do something called the procurement commission. The constitution says you must have one. The law in Guyana says you must have one. And then we said it doesn't matter. The anti-money laundering law is like the sail that you can make it bigger and it will carry the boat because you're fighting money laundering. But if you have a hole at the bottom of the boat that is caused by improper and corrupt procurement and contracts, the hole will make the boat sink anyhow. So plug the hole at the bottom, bring the procurement commission. So we worked together on these issues in the parliament, and we saw out of necessity that you could do better in Guyana. They didn't do better. So in order to be able to remove the burdens on Guyanese, to carry the load of corruption and mismanagement and the crime and the sleaze that takes place in our country that makes us all feel less than Guyanese. We're in the top ladder of corruption and we're in the lowest ladder of public safety. Our police force and our crime fighting capacity, we have been put at the bottom of the world. The confidence level, the trust level has disappeared. So this is not a situation that we have taken very lightly. We realize that many people have expressed concerns, but we said we have to first get rid of the hurdle that blocks the way to the future, which is this minority government. And so we are going into these elections in May, on May 11. We are very confident that the united front, or this team unity of APNU and AFC, will win the elections. We are confident about that. And we want to give you the assurance, we want to give you the assurance that the way the coalition has been structured is that the Alliance for Change, though a small party with 11%, it plays a very critical role. We are not there with the PNC, we are there with the APNU that has 5 parties in the coalition. They brought 40% of the votes on the table, and we have 11 in the parliament. And we said if we could be the majority while we're in the opposition, why couldn't we be the majority in government? That's all we're doing here. That's all the people voted for. They voted for us with a majority, not to be in the opposition, but to be in government. And so we have decided that this was a good agreement. And this agreement has guarantees. We can't go back and always sing the same old song about rigging, because Guyana's problem is not caused by rigging. Guyana's problem is caused by lack of unity and corruption. Those are the problems we have to address. You couldn't go and say that rigging was a problem in Guyana when you had an opportunity, the PPP had an opportunity to address that issue. For 17 years, there has been no local government elections in Guyana. What is the PPP telling the world, these leaders? That no elections are better than rigged elections? Isn't that what it amounts to? That you're not holding local government elections for 17 years. You're denying people in the grassroots level of a right to participate in their country. And you can still feel you have the moral right to criticize those who you said rigged elections in the past. No way. No way. And so, my friends, today I present to you our assurance that this coalition is right for Guyana. This coalition is what Guyana needs. This is what you need. You want to go back home to invest. You want to go back home to spend your last days. You want to know that your country is safe and secure.